Welcome to the Backpacking Podcast, brought to you by Outdoor Vitals, makers of performance first ultralight gear. For John Kelly and my good friend Jeremiah Stringer, we want to welcome you to the show. Jeremiah, how are we doing today, my friend?
Hey, man, we're doing well. Happy beginning of the school year to everybody. I've been seeing a lot of pictures on Facebook of my kids this age, this year in school. My favorite thing to do, like your daughter's was my favorite thing to do, is reading, and your son, he likes to play with his friends.
And actually, that's where they both are right now. They're both two doors down, playing with a friend, and their mom's watching them so that I can record a podcast.
Well, shout out to her. Let me say a quick word from our sponsor, Outdoor Vitals. We're the Backpacking Podcast, brought to you by Outdoor Vitals, makers of performance first ultralight gear. And they have a pre-sale coming out. If you want to reserve your preferred size and colors for this new clothing line that they have, the Mountain Pursuit line, you can do that now. It is live. As soon as you're hearing this, it's live, it's going. And if you're a Live Ultralight member, you're still going to get that 10% off. But right now, there's no other discount. So if you want a discount, sign up for that UL membership. They got multiple things coming. The two soonest things are some new Altura Dynamic pants and their Pursuit Hybrid fleece. And I've laid eyes on both of them. I haven't had hands on them, but I can't wait to try that fleece. Dude.
That fleece, man, I'm telling you right now, I am genuinely wanting to see that fleece. That thing looks awesome.
I had a private meeting with one of the representatives of Outdoor Vitals that we work with, and she went through like all the features on the fleece. And we'll talk more about it, I'm sure, during one of the shows. And then one other thing, if you are out west, PCT days, Outdoor Vitals is going to be there in person. They're at booth number 40 at 11:30 on Saturday. They're going to have a free gear raffle. So you can enter that drawing, win some gear. They're at Cascade Locks, Oregon. And if you're there, you're going to be the first person to see the new Shadow Light and the Mountain Pursuit line. Actually get your hands on it and see what it's like.
Man,
so
we haven't even seen the new Shadow Light.
I have never
seen it. Although I think I've seen it in some pictures. And if it's what I think it is, it looks pretty cool.
So exciting stuff coming down the pipeline. Long story short, with Outdoor Vital, we're so happy to continue to be sponsored by them and trying out all their gear and giving you all feedback and telling you what's awesome.
Yeah, and I want to give a big thank you to Derwin Off the Rails for the first super chat of the day. JK, he won't stop sending those feet pics. Tell him to stop. My eyes are burning.
Oh, man, I'll never live down the feet pics.
Jeremiah,
everybody check out my Instagram.
You got to stop, Jeremiah. You got to stop. So funny. So funny. Somebody just asked the question, so why are we in this channel? No bad news, please. Oh, no, there's no bad news. We're just airing in 2 locations today. There are a lot of people who don't actually subscribe to the Backpacking Podcast channel, so we're actually using my channel as an extra outlet to get some more views for the channel. So check it out. If you're watching on my channel, it might be a good time to go ahead and get subscribed to the Backpacking Podcast YouTube channel, and let's get those subscribers up. Jeremiah.
Yes.
So today I'm on Facebook, and I see this thing. It's this picture. And it's from the Somerset Insider.
Oh, my gosh.
Do you know what the Somerset Insider is, Jeremiah?
Dude, I think this is ran by somebody in town. I don't know if he's a lawyer or what, but he comes up with these news stories. I'm using air quotations.
Oh, yeah. It's a satire page. It's a big-time satire page. Well, today I get on there, and there's like a 6-foot salamander on this bench. And it talks about people were in Lake Cumberland and were terrified when they saw what was pulled out of the Cumberland Lake. And there were some people the best part about these pages, this is my absolute favorite thing. The best thing about these pages is the fact that some people take them seriously.
Oh, bro, if you read the comments, it's ridiculous. Some of them look believable. I don't know if they're AI generated images or photoshopped or what, but some of it's like, if you live around here, you're like, is this real or not? So I could see if it's the first time, a lot of people get duped, man. It gives me a chuckle.
Funny. It's so funny. And there's so much crazy stuff going on in the world. And today we have a guest who has seen a lot of crazy stuff. He is a family liaison officer. He is also the author of the book When Accidents Happen, Managing Crisis Communication as a Family Liaison Officer. We want to welcome to the show. We're very honored to have him on here, Mr. Moose Mutlow. How are you doing, Moose?
Yeah. Hey, thanks very much, John and Jeremiah, for having me on. Very
Oh,
happy to be here.
absolutely, absolutely. Now, your accent—that's not a Southern accent. And you say you're from
No, it
California,
isn't.
but you don't sound like you're from California.
So I came via a lot of places. I actually just got my American citizenship after many years in the country. It was very exciting in February. But I came originally from Britain, right in the heartland, Birmingham. I'm a Brummie, born and bred. My favorite soccer team's Aston Villa. If anybody's out there follows the Premier League. And then at about 18, 19, I started traveling and I never went back. And I ended up fortuitously in California, which has been a wonderful, wild place to be.
Well, that's awesome.
Well, I was going through some of our analytics, and 1 in 10 listeners of this show are from California. Yep,
There
that's
you
our
go.
concentrated listenership out there. Well, y'all got a lot of outdoor stuff out there. I mean, I wrote down a bunch of stuff that you've done with your life. You tell, is it okay if I share your age?
Yeah, go for it. I'm very proud of it.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, a lot of
That's
life
great.
experience.
That's
So
great.
Moose, we were talking off air, and Moose is 60. So John said you've seen a lot in your life. I wrote down a bunch of stuff. I'll read off a couple of these just in the past, stuff that you've done, just to set the table here. I wrote fishery officer, social worker, bar manager, principal at an elite sporting academy, and you also taught in Kalahari. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but I did write down that's the Swana word, Gala, which means the great thirst. I don't know what language that is,
Well,
but
the Kalahari, it's that big southern desert that's bordered by
right.
South Africa in the south.
Mhm.
Botswana is the majority part of it. And I lived in the southern part there for a year, working and teaching.
Is Kalahari, is that a Swahili word?
No, Swahili is up in is
That,
northern and
is that
east.
Kenya,
Is
Tanzania,
the trade.
basically?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's Setswana and It's like the indigenous people of the Kalahari have the clicks and the words. If you start a letter with an exclamation point, when you hear the people talking, it's like birds singing, and
Oh,
which
that's
is one of
cool.
my favorite words in Setswana is Nunyani, which means bird. But you would hear this amazing rhythm and sound from the people of the desert. It's a gorgeous thing to be around.
That's awesome. Jeremiah, we're already getting busted up in the chats, just so you know.
Yeah, show us a few of these chats. There's a few things that I'm wanting to ask
Jer-
Moose
Jer-
about, but let's
Jerry
get some of these in.
Flowers said Jeremiah may not have merch, but he still has Gonex. So
It's a little inside
we'll explain that to you after the show. That's a long-standing joke. And then Backcountry Exposure, isn't John 60 next year?
Are
Come
you
on,
60
Devin.
next year?
No,
That's
I'm
what I thought. I was
51.
like,
I'm 51.
51. Oh,
I
he's
got
far
I got
away.
9 years to go, man. Come on now. That's just Devin giving me a hard time. So, anyways, they like to bust on us here, man. They like to bust on us, Moose. It's just a part of our life. It's part of our
Keeps
life.
us humble.
Yes. Now, Moose, you and I were talking about something before Jeremiah got on, and I'd love to talk about this a little bit because I found it fascinating what you had done. At one point, you lived in North Carolina,
Yep.
and we were talking about the fact this time of year here in Kentucky, it's oppressive heat. It's always in the mid to upper 90s. It's always 90% humidity, and it's oppressive. And I made the comment that we try not to go backpacking a lot in the summer just because it's so hot. And you were saying that you went 60 days in North Carolina between
I'd
June, July, and
worked summer.
August?
Right, I'd worked summer contracts over in Western North Carolina, and we do a standard course for Outward Bound, North Carolina Outward Bound was 21 days or 22 days, and you'd work 3 of them over the summer. And so you would just be out there just battling through the rhododendron. You call it roto wrestling or rotoketo, and you would spend weeks crawling on your belly like a salamander. It's the only place I've ever seen people reduce to tears in a backpacking setup because it's just so hard. And we would work. Just part of Outward Bound is developing the skills and learning through the skills about yourself. And you would give groups a fair amount of autonomy. And there were times where you knew the trail was less than 100 feet to your right, but they would be intent on being on a bearing, and they would be crawling through the rhododendron. And you'd watch other groups walk by on the trail. You'd see their feet, but you wouldn't say anything because you want the students to figure out where they are. And you would just spend forever just down in the duff. I don't miss crawling through the rhododendron. I miss the camaraderie and the laughter, but the physicality of it was. And then to be terrified by lightning storms and bumping into copperheads and when you're crossing the creeks and all those surprise pieces.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you
Exciting
also said something I think is nice for us to hear, us East Coasters. You made a statement about how West Coasters kind of underappreciate the difficulty of hiking on the east side of the United States. Could you share that a little bit?
Yeah, the beauty of the West is your navigation is you rise up and look at your map or your app, and you go, oh look, there's the mountain we want to go to, and there's nothing getting in the way. And when we were in the Cherokee, you needed to learn map and compass because you would have these occasional windows where you could see ridges, or you could look down and figure out where you were in the drainage. But you were just hemmed in, and the steepness of it, and the frequency you step on yellow jacket nests, and all of those pieces. That's the eastern forest. There's snobbery. Every local has snobbery ultimately and dismisses these other places they maybe don't know as well. But for tough terrain, Western North Carolina, that eastern side of Kentucky, the running up and through Tennessee, northern Georgia. I've been in the rainforest and I've been in desert and I've worked in a lot of different environments. North Carolina is that area is particularly challenging.
Yeah, we have we got a love-hate relationship with the roadies, the rhododendrons here. I mean, you hate them when you have to like make your way through them. But bro, if there is like a cliff over here and the only thing between you and falling off that cliff, the cliff is the roadies, that's when we absolutely love them. I'm like, gosh, I am so glad that these here, because if I fall, I need something to grab.
Well, you see, and also when they flower, at that moment, I used to take a step back and realize this giant tree thing had this amazing beauty that's really hard to see when you're underneath the waxy leaves. And you're right about that idea of safety. I mean, I remember doing an evacuation during a lightning drill in the Cherokee where we were running on top of the rhododendrons to get off a ridge. And every sort of people would hit holes in the rhodos and you would drop down to where the ground really was. And it was tough, but amazing. And that's the Eastern Forest. I think the Eastern Forest, like that whole Mount Mitchell area, if you want to figure out what the ecotones are from the ground up to the top of Mount Mitchell, the tallest part east of the Mississippi, you have to go all the way to Manitoba. So you have that range in that Eastern Forest of all of those ecosystems, animals. It's such a rich, nuanced landscape and so much history.
These forests are old.
Yeah.
Is it true that you can't cook over, like if you had a dead roadie and you sawed it up and wanted to cook over it, is it true that you're not supposed to cook over them? That's what I've always heard. Like the smoke, I don't know if you call it poisonous, but I don't know if it taints the food. Have you ever heard that, or is this just made up?
I have heard that, but I think it comes from the fact that most of the time you're sawing up something that's alive and you're trying to burn green wood, and it's useless. And finding good wood in the Eastern Forest is always a problem anyway. So I think it's one of those things that probably may have a trace of truth within it, but I don't know for sure.
Okay, so get this. I actually looked this up. I was like, you had me curious because I'd heard it too, but I never actually looked it up to see. It is generally not recommended to cook over rhododendron smoke.
Oh, there you go.
While the wood itself might not be as toxic as some other parts of the plant, there's still a risk of ingesting harmful compounds, especially from the smoke. So there you go.
Yeah,
and so you think.
Go ahead.
Think about those fires that you've experienced in the East in the last few years and that mixture of timber that's in there. It's just an example of that wildfire hazard, that just the intensity of that experience is compounded by the pollutants.
Yeah. Yeah. Somebody was commenting they couldn't tell what I was drinking. It is a Dr. Pepper zero sugar cream soda. So sorry, it's not a Foster's. Somebody thought that was a Foster's. I was like, nah, no, we're just going with the diet soda today. But
Well, you know,
I'll throw it
speaking
out
of
there.
Foster, and these comments, that's an Australian beer, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's very Australian, but it's a I would call a junkie beer. Like it's not really that good.
It's
Like
Pabst Blue
it's
Ribbon of Australia.
kind of, and then you got to go down. There's another classic VB down south. But I love that idea in Australia when you were buying beer. It was in a bottle shop. You go and you would drive in. It would be get a slab of beer, and you would head off. And the social structure in Australia is very geared to the pub, very rich. And I was
gonna
once
ask you.
I was in a
sorry.
pub, and we were all sitting there, and the radio cackled to alive. It was up in Queensland, up in the northeast, and we were just sitting there. We weren't locals, and everybody jumped up, and they all got in position. One truck took off in one direction, and one truck took off in the other direction. And we were like, "What is going on?" We came out with that beer and looked, and then you hear this, "Whee," and this aeroplane landed on the main road, and then it taxied into the parking lot of the pub, and then the pilot got out, then the two trucks came back, and everybody had a beer, and then we went back out and they blocked the road, and then he went home, and he'd just blown in for a pint. And that
Oh
was
my
that just defined Australia for me, the lunacy of it. Like, yeah.
What year was this? Just out of curiosity, what year was this?
88. The reason it stands out is because in this pub, there's a couple of things that happened. Is
Jeremiah wasn't
we
even
had,
alive yet.
we had
No,
met someone who told this outrageous story about going up to catch a crocodile. And what he was going to do was he was going to go upriver on the Barron, catch a crocodile. It had like a third of its tail missing. And then he planned to have a friend of his fly over an airplane and drop out two giant inner tubes that he was going to inflate. And then he was going to put the crocodile on a raft, and he was going to raft it down the river, paddling it. And then he was going to sell it to a animal park. And it was just an amazing story. We just laughed so hard when he told it. And then we dismissed it as a wild story. And then we ended up meeting the pilot by accident. And the pilot was like, "Oh yeah, Lex had this crazy idea of like canoeing a crocodile down the river." And it turned out to be true. It was a different time. Yeah.
Well, I seen people in the comments talking about your accent, and they're like, I couldn't tell if it's like British or Australian or a mix of both.
Oh,
how long?
so it's called Mid-Atlantic. So it's nobody knows where I'm from. So I have an American cadence, so I've slowed down. If you want to tell the difference between Aussies and the rest of the world, everything turns into a question. They inflect at the end. And my regional accent in Birmingham is great where I come from. It's really, really nice. It's a really nasally. And then people sometimes think I'm South African, but South Africans clip their words. And that's yeah. So I have this sort of amalgam.
Yeah. Well, I know that Australians can't say the word no. It comes as nar.
Yeah. There's another great one they have, which I use every so often. Bits of Australia slip out, and I said to my wife the other day, we were talking about how far something was away, and I went the way back, not just a little bit. It was a way back. So it's a far distance, which I like that idea that you can, that all those little colloquialisms for each culture.
Oh, that's great.
I knew Australia spread out. I didn't realize you had to take. I didn't realize it's like Alaska. You got people taking planes just to go get a pint or deliver crocodiles or whatever y'all are doing.
So Australia's scale, if you took Australia and you dropped it on the continental US, it's essentially the same landmass.
Oh yeah, it's big, but a lot of desert though, right? It's mostly uninhabited.
Huge amount of. Well, it had people in it for a long time. It's like got this rich thousands of years of occupancy by local people, but it's the landscape is this sort of richness of. I worked a lot in the rainforest, northern rivers, and down the snowfields, and it's an amazing landscape. And the having worked in different countries, Australia is the one place where I remember being a guide and looking at what my training was going to be, and he said, "Okay, the next thing you're going to have is what happens if your student is taken by a crocodile." And I was like, "What?" That just got really serious. And we had a rule that whenever you camped up in the north, you camped closest to the water. So if the crocodile came up at night, it would take you before the students. That was a
Oh
good
my
sobering
goodness.
view of managing the landscape. Yeah.
Okay, well, take us
Wow.
through it. Let's say, hypothetically speaking, that you're our guide. So, for those that don't know, you've done a bunch of guided trips,
Yeah.
but let's say you're our guide and you're taking John and I out. We're in crocodile country. The crocodile gets me, it gets my legs, trying to tear it off. It's doing the death roll. What's the protocol as you as the guide? Or
I
do
can
you have
answer
a
that, Jeremiah. I can answer that.
let it
We're
take
just gonna
me?
be like, sorry, dude, and then we're gonna go find that pub he was talking about and hang out. I mean, that's
It pretty much was that. It was
yeah. I mean,
so
what
it
are you
was
gonna
based
do?
on size. It was based on size. So Lex Mackey, who was the guy who gave the workshop, said if it's 4 feet, you've got a chance of sort of wrestling it. 5 feet, maybe you can get it off. Beyond 6 feet, don't worry, don't bother about it. It's done.
Oh my goodness. Boy, that is
And you,
sobering. That is a sobering thought.
Well, we're not
and you
talking
don't.
about Florida alligators. Like those Crocs are beasts over in Australia, aren't they?
Oh yeah, they're enormous, like 18 feet, big salty.
Gosh.
And they're silent. Like you would look off the bridge on the Barren, you look down and you'd see their eyes. And we swam a river with Croc in it to do a resupply because we were young and stupid. And we found out that the locals had all their dogs. They would have these dogs for pig hunting, and they'd have them around. You'd say, well, what's that dog called? And none of them had any names. We were like, well, why don't you call them names? And they said, because of the crocodiles. So when they swam the rivers, they would swim with the dogs around them. And the
Uh-huh.
idea being it's a smaller bite size, and the croc would take the dog rather than them.
Oh,
Wow.
that sucks and it's hard to listen to, but at the same time, it's totally understandable. I mean, we've been using dogs as a tool and resource for how many tens of thousands of years?
Oh yeah.
So, I mean, I don't want to sacrifice them. I have 2 dogs myself, and when they die, it breaks your heart. I mean, you cry, they're part of your family, but also a resource. Yeah, I could definitely see living out there. It's probably harsh too, you
Hey,
know?
Jeremiah, I would give up a dog for you.
Oh, thank you, John. I would do the same. Either
I
one of my
would do
dogs.
that. I would
Either
I would let the dog die if it meant you'd make it across the river.
Yeah, and hopefully Moose would camp and get eaten by the crocodile before me. He'd be a good guide, follow the protocol, self-sacrifice. You would do that for me, right?
Well, I think that the sobering thing about crocodiles is that you don't see them a lot in a lot of the areas that you're in, and you see them out on the islands. They're running up and down the coast. So if you're
Mhm.
fishing on the reef, they'll swim by, and they're sneaky. They'll just disappear in 2 feet of water. You won't see them,
Uh,
and they're quick. They're amazingly fast, and that initial sprint. A friend of mine was up in the backcountry in the Atherton, maybe up towards Atherton Tablelands, maybe, and as the rains come, the crocodiles come in, they move up through the impoundments, and they get up further in the backcountry, and then they start eating the cattle. As it dries out, they come down. And he talked about coming over a dam and putting his leg in the hole of the crocodile. When he'd come over the top, he pushed his leg down in the dam and then sort of slid it down, and he could put his whole leg in the hole. So his leg was 3 or 4 feet, 4 feet long. So you think about that on an animal that weighs 1,000 pounds.
what do you well, first of all, let me say
Man.
the record should show that Moose avoided the question of getting eaten instead of me. He swiveled and answered a different thing.
It's liability,
Secondly,
mate. That's the way it goes.
I get it. I get it. So let's say I didn't think we're going to be talking about crocodiles today. I had no idea when I woke up today I was going to get a crash course in surviving crocodiles. But what am I supposed to do? Let's say it's got my leg. It is a 10-foot gator. I mean, a 10-foot croc, and I don't want to be eaten. And I'm going to do everything I can to fight back, even if it means it ripping my leg totally off. What is there anything? Am I supposed to gouge the eyes? I'm assuming their biting power is insane, so I'm not going to be able to pull the mouth apart.
Right. So they've got an armored eyelid. So you can't gouge their eyes. They've got a slit behind their eye, apparently, that you can get your fingers in. But I think you're being thrashed around. There isn't much truth. Well, the survivability that people have had quite often has been somebody coming to the aid and distracting it and wrestling it.
Uh-huh.
But there was a death maybe beginning of the year with a guy who fell off a bank, failed when they were fishing, and they both fell in the water, him and his wife. and he got his wife up and out the water, and the croc took him as he was pushing her up the bank.
Oh
So
my gosh.
it's a million-year-old design. It's designed to be very successful when it needs to be, which is the natural world. You think of all of these animals that we see, like the East with the black bear, what an incredibly successful omnivore. It's everywhere. The coyote, coy wolf, all these sort of animals that have the ability to adapt and to this changing landscape. And the great thing about crocodiles is they don't necessarily adapt, they endure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And
there's
the
a reason why
crazy thing is we've got these genetic people that are trying to bring back dire wolves. It's like, let's bring up really large wolves that are extremely dangerous, and let's just, that makes sense.
Well, it's a great side thing to look up, is look at the hybridization between coyotes and eastern timber wolves in the United States. That is a fascinating genetic thing that is happening, and the whole red wolf population in eastern North Carolina. There's much more interesting things that are happening right now than this sort of bringing back this animal that is long gone. Yeah.
We'll
Definitely.
write down potential future guest, coyote/wolf expert. That could be an interesting person to talk to on here. I don't know. Well, I'll tell you what, John, if you want to see if we got any comments, anything to address in there, and then I would love to hear about some of these search and rescue missions that you've led or participated in. It's good, bad, ugly, funny, sad, whatever you got. I'd love to hear some of the experiences. But John,
I mean, most of them are just people commenting on what's been going on. J Flow's on here saying self-preservation, you're on your own. It says death is a cycle of life, but yours to a crocodile. We got Doc Watson saying, like a bear, poop him on the nose. And then this one was funny, or not funny, but true. A hippo would destroy a crocodile.
Oh yeah, hippos are really unnerving. When you hear and it's right by you in the reeds, it's super unnerving. And they run at 35 miles an hour. I've gone head to head with a hippo in a Land Rover and backed off. Been very clear that that enormous gait and its bulk is not something to mess with. And then you'll hear them at night. They'll graze right by your tent. You're like sitting there in your tent, you're like, hang on, that's something very big. And you realize there's this 1.5 ton animal just quietly grazing right next to you.
Yeah, I got to go to, I was in Tanzania years ago, and I got to go on a safari where we saw these hippos. And you don't realize just the enormity of those things until you're actually near them and you actually see them. They are massive in size. And then you see these videos of people throwing like a watermelon or a pumpkin in their mouth, and they just clamp down on it like it's a gummy bear. It's unbelievable, their bite strength.
They're fantastic. All of that stuff, when you see it for real, as you probably experienced on your trip, is so much bigger than what you see in a zoo or wildlife park. My first trip to Africa when I was 18, I stopped taking photographs because when I got my film back and it was developed, it was just a sort of gray splotch in acacia, and I just couldn't capture it. So I just stopped and started writing.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see that.
All right, let's build up a little bit about this search and rescue. So, like we said earlier, you've done a ton of things in your life, even stuff we've talked about off air that I haven't even mentioned. It says that you worked 25 years in national parks and Yosemite SAR Search and Rescue. We're all around the world. John, I don't know if you showed his book. Moose is also an author. The name of the book is When Accidents Happen, Managing Crisis Communication as a Family Liaison Officer. And by the way, if people wanted to purchase that, they get it on Amazon or your website?
On Amazon, yeah. Yeah, Amazon.
Okay. Amazon. So y'all definitely check out his book. Let's cover some of the stuff that you talk about in there and managing this crisis. So first, let's address how much experience do you have in search and rescue? Like, what all have you done? You started out, I assume, volunteering with the crew or something, and then through the years, you've created so much experience that you started leading, and now you've seen a lot.
So I start as an outdoor guide you're always around accidents because you're the professional in the field, and it's either your accident you're dealing with your group or somebody else's group. So I did a lot of work all around the world responding to things as part of my job or as adjacent to an accident. And then when I got to American national parks, and particularly in Yosemite, I got into the search and rescue team because of my proficiency in water. So my background is an expedition paddler. I got my wilderness first responder. I was an EMT for a long time. And I just started getting involved as a subject matter expert in responding to a lot of drownings. A lot of what I do is majority, I think 2/3 of the course I've gone on in the river are recoveries. They're not live people. And I work in and around pulling people off the trails for a long time in litters, working in and around helicopters, and then moved up into incident command. And when I got into command, I was really doing a lot of work as family liaison, which is a senior position where you work with the families that are connected to the search or the recovery that you're doing. So you're the incident commander's representative, and you're taking them through this really emotionally charged environment to give them facts that they can rely on and timely updates so they don't feel left out.
Are you
But I'm
almost? Do you
I'm
almost
still
feel like?
swimming.
Do you almost feel like a counselor in those situations, trying to help people come to grips with what's going on at times? Or
It kind of I've got a background in counseling and sort of the therapeutic background, but we're an administrator. We're a kind administrator in this horrible thing that's happening. They've lost a loved one, and what my job is to not cloud facts with too much emotion, but to acknowledge that they're in an emotional state and manage it. It's it's intense because you go through this idea, you do notifications because someone's been out on the trail and they've done something that 99% of the time they would have been fine with and they got really unlucky, and the parent is coming to terms with it, or you're dealing with the disappointment of a multi-day search and it not coming out how you wanted it to, or ever so often you have this ridiculous thing where actually think it's going to go south and everything says it's going to go south, and somehow 4 days out of it, the person who you looked at 4 days before and said there's no way this guy's surviving walks out of the backcountry, and the thing that almost kills him is the rescue helicopter because he almost runs down in the blades because he's uphill and he runs down to it. That you occasionally have these really good outcomes. But in
wow,
Yosemite, we
Okay.
run about 220 missions a year and run 12 to 20 fatalities.
wow. So
Well,
there's not many breaks for you guys then.
No, it's pretty much all year round. I think last 2 weekends ago, I did 2 fatalities, call outs. And then I do consulting with other parks on recovery and trying to figure out methods to search or to release bodies when they're trapped in the water. And
now,
it's unusual in the States because 99% of the people who run search and rescue are volunteers. They don't get paid. They're volunteers. Your local county group, that they're giving up their time, their training, they're an incredible service to communities. I get paid because it's under the national parks have an emergency hire where you can come onto the payroll because of a specific skill set, and then you earn money at that point.
I see. Is there anything that comes to mind that if we can stay respectful to the family's privacy or the person involved, we definitely want to do that. But is there anything that you can share with us publicly that maybe your boots on the ground, and like, for example, you mentioned a person that you're like, there's no way, like, take us through basically, I guess you call it the Reader's Digest version here, because I want to hear
I
multiple things. But yeah, take us through, like, what's
in
leading
this
you to believe those things. I don't know if something specific comes to mind, and then the payoff to that when you actually find somebody.
So in the spring, we do a lot of time in the water, just swimming in snowmelt and getting conditioned. And I'd gone out on a training day, and I had my wetsuit essentially on, and the call went out that somebody was in the water. And it's in Yosemite National Park, steep terrain, really consequential. What you say is class 6 water, unpaddleable water. And I just got in the patrol vehicle and zipped up there. And the description of the location we were going in, I'd swum a lot and it's very high flow. It's flood level, but I feel I feel competent going solo. And as we're talking, you're figuring out how big they are, if they are a swimmer, what sort of their background is. And we heard she was like, she was European, she was pretty tall, she was an athlete, and she was actually a life saving. She was a swimmer. And we're like, oh, good. This is like, okay, if she went in here, I can chase and maybe we'll find her. And then as you go through the conversation, you realize that the accident happened an hour before, a mile and a half up the trail. And she's gone into an unsurvivable piece of water, but you still dispatch and you run up. And we worked that scene for like 2 hours, maybe. What finished me off was the wash of a helicopter just chilling me to the bone. And that resolved maybe 2.5 months later, that we went out and did a recovery on her body. But you're out looking, you're trying to figure out where she could have ended up. We found her rain jacket, actually, and then we sort of scented, and we got an idea that there was a body nearby, and it was right in everybody's view. People had probably been taking pictures, and she just looked like a rock. And then
Oh,
you
wow.
go and recover, and you pull her out, and for you, you finish the mission, so that's good because you've done that recovery. I think you'll often hear rescuers say, I hope this brings closure to the family. I push back on that because a bit presumptive, because they got a lifetime of trying to come to terms with what has happened in this loss. So we've resolved that part of the mystery. We've brought that person to our loved ones, and then they're going to figure out where they go from there. And the motivation for me in a lot of this is being part of a bigger machine, working in a team that's highly functional. You've all got your roles. You're focused on a selfless task, trying to solve this mystery, and you work in an area of acceptance. You work where you recognize everybody's experience, and it's almost conducted without talking. It's a machine.
Well, I have one situation, and this just like an outsider looking in. I went to school like all through grade school, high school. I knew this girl, and she moved up to Alaska, got married, and moved up to Alaska, and then they went on vacation, I believe, to Hawaii from Alaska. And then I don't know if she got in a rip current or what, but while they were on vacation out there, she drowned. I don't think they still have found her body. And I could see, like, at the very beginning, you had people posting on Facebook, hey, she's missing. It happened at this time. If you hear anything, if you see anything, and then they're dispatching people out there to look for her. But I mean, it's an ocean, and she's not the greatest swimmer. And then as each day passes, you see, like, even by hour, you see hope fading, but lots of prayers, well wishes. And then finally, I don't know how, maybe the protocol, how, I'm sure it's circumstantial, but how do you make the call to be like, okay, the search is finished? I know it's different, like water versus somebody could survive for weeks in the woods under the right conditions. But what goes into making the call, saying,
I
okay, we're wrapping,
Well,
and then
working with
recover?
families, you have to shift them from this hope and optimism to reality, and that can happen. As a family liaison officer, you're negotiating that with facts. Like, we've got 120 people in the field, we're covering all of this ground, and 4 days in, you haven't found any what we call significant clues. That's when you start to work. You've worked with the family to say, if we don't find anything today, it's 4 days. We're going to stop changing the way we're doing the search, and actually resources getting pulled off to other incidents. And we caught about limited continuous in the park. And it's a really hard thing, because quite often that's the time at which, when the agency stops looking, the family then go on Facebook and appeal for searchers, and they try to maintain it themselves. And sometimes they're successful. And sometimes they're actually, there's fraud involved, that people come in and promise things that they can't possibly deliver. Um, and it's hard. It's that point at which we'll look at the reality of, in water, it's pretty quick whether you've survived or not. It's if you haven't got flotation and you're in a rip current, you're not going to swim for 4 days.
Right.
If you've got flotation and a cooler, maybe you can last a bit longer. But in the backcountry, we'll look at people's backgrounds. So if you've got someone like yourselves who are experienced backpackers, and you've got a bunch of good gear, and you've got a rain jacket, and you might have busted your leg, but you have a tent, I have optimism for a long time. if you're a novice who is going out in cotton and your hoodie and you're using your phone to navigate, I have less optimism. But funnily enough, sometimes those people have the deep sense of survival inside them, and that keeps them going because they know if they stop, they're not going to make it, and somehow they pull themselves out on the far side. But it's a hard thing to negotiate. And I think anybody going the outdoors has a responsibility to not go out and think about their own level of safety, consequence of what they do, and also be proficient enough to aid somebody else who's next to them who needs hand. Because there's a good body of work that shows that people witness people struggling and choose to do nothing and choose to not intervene, and then the accident happens. And it's about, there's a social responsibility as people in the outdoors to try and promote safety, which may be quite difficult in places, but it's go out there and try and help.
Well, let me pause you for a second. This is something we've talked a little bit about before. I'd be interested to hear your take as SAR. John and I live in Kentucky, and we talked a lot on here about Red River Gorge, and we frequent it. And there's a lot of tourists. It's very touristy in some areas. Some of the trails are very easy, and you just get a lot of foot traffic. But you always run into multiple people that are very low experience. And we're not tooting our own horn here. I'm just telling you the realities. They're asking you, like, how far is it to the car? Which trail do I hit after this one? And you're like, bro, you're 6 miles in right now. And they're like, I only have an hour to get back. And you're like, the reality is,
you're
is
3 hours from your car.
Yeah. So I wonder how much responsibility, social responsibility, as you would call it, do we have whenever we're meeting these people? How often or how much should you interject into their, like, how high does the danger have to be? Like, where's the cutoff? Because I don't want to just be walking up to people and being like, do y'all need some help? I got a map here, just because I walked by and overheard their conversation about a little bit of navigation. So is it only solicited, or where do you draw the line?
I've drawn the line where I see people doing dangerous stuff, and I can say, I'm in search and rescue, and I've been up here last week, and I saw we were dealing with somebody who fell off the edge here. So I can be pretty confrontational and straight with that, and I feel pretty confident, but it's also my backyard. And I have a veneer of sophisticated accountability. Like, I can be there and be like believable. I wouldn't say everybody. I think that often I'll look at people, and the first place to get to them talking is to ask them a question and say what your name is. Here's I'm Moose. I live locally. I love this trail. Is it your first time on the trail? And you sort of start it as a conversation, and then I'll talk about the way I learned, which was cotton. I kind of bit off more than I could chew. It's really easy when I didn't have that reference point, and so I want to have a positive experience and sort of talk about it in my terms, so it's less confrontational. And if people chill you out, then I don't push it. But if somebody's doing something, particularly around kids, that is dangerous near the water, I will step up and be like, people drown here in a moment, and it's me getting in the water. But it's a hard thing to negotiate because people are defensive. And I think the biggest contribution you can do right now is what you're doing with a show like this, is having knowledge get out there and get experts on and people to talk about it, encourage viewership, and encourage people to find good mentors and be an apprentice and seek to learn every single day you're in the outdoors and encourage good behavior. That's where it starts. It doesn't start necessarily in the reactive level of being on the trail. It starts in the work that you're doing here with this show.
Well, that is encouraging.
And I think the other piece about it is to look at the next generation and look at groups that are trying to help young people who are disconnected from the outdoors get good mentorship. So whether it's groups like National Outdoor Leadership School and Outward Bound, which are quite expensive, those are great places to have scholarship to. But the other thing is big city mountaineers, places that actually work with people who don't have the money and give good mentorship and use the outdoors as a medium to learn through. There are plenty of places out there that do that and participate. It doesn't happen in a vacuum. It needs people to be engaged.
Yeah, I would.
Education.
Yeah, and I would say probably just to kind of mirror what Jeremiah was saying, one of the biggest things I see are people who come out with no maps. They hear there's a great place to go hike. They don't bring water. They don't bring a backpack with anything in it in case of anything happening, and they get lost. They take a wrong turn. They don't know where they're going. They end up 5-6 miles in the woods where they didn't realize they were going to go in that far. And at least where we are, that always seems to be the thing. I know we talked to someone who was with Search and Rescue in Wolfe County here in Kentucky, and there was a guy who he got out there and he got lost. He didn't know where he was going. Luckily, he made it, but he almost didn't. They were about to give up when somebody got word that they found him, and it's amazing. I tell people all the time, don't go out in the woods unless you have a plan for what you're going to do when you get there. It's amazing to me how many people fail before they even get there.
I would balance that because as a kid, I'm sure you guys are models of this, that you would go and do stuff that was right on the edge of sensible.
Oh, yeah.
Like stupid and sensible are very, very, very close together.
Yes.
And that we had the benefit of this outdoor immersion as young people that is rarer today, right? You're probably passing it on to your kids. Awesome. And so whenever I interact with people who are having that epic, I look at their reference, and maybe it's their first trip, and it's the thing they should have experienced when they were 6, and they were going too fast on a bike, and they went off a jump that their buddy had built, and it just flattened as soon as they hit it, and they got really cut up, but they were only traveling at 12 miles an hour. It was okay. And they're sort of doing it at 22. And so I always look at people as constituents for the outdoors. Can I find a way to negotiate the defensiveness and still preserve the fact that they want to be out there, because we need people out there.
Absolutely.
And it's hard. I haven't got a magic formula. I do know that what I would say is there are trails in Yosemite that I do not go hiking in busy season, because all I would be doing was stopping people and being freaked out, and it would destroy their experience and mine. So I'm not out on the Falls Trail in June because it's too scary, because people are doing stuff all the time. But having said that, people aren't falling off the edge all the time.
Yeah.
What's causing all these people to fall off the edge? Are they taking selfies? They just slipping? Do they need to let their legs hang off so they can take a picture, or what?
The selfie part, there's a disconnect between the way in which nature can take you in a moment. Like I said to somebody the other day, I said there aren't a lot of drownings in Northern Australia, and that's because you're really careful around the water, and because of crocodiles. So you're not going in the water a bunch, right?
Yeah.
You've got a consequence that if you're standing on the edge of a waterfall and you feel like you're the strongest thing in the world, you don't realize that one slip on a little mossy rock and you go off a 70-foot cascade or a 350-foot cascade, you're done. And I think there's a disconnect in the reality of it, and also there's an unfamiliarity in what I call outdoor kinesthetics, which is what we develop at 4 and 5, running around, falling off stuff. If you're learning that at 22, it's a tough learning. It's a tough way to learn, and you don't have that intuitive bank of information that you can't even put your finger on, but you've built over years of doing semi-stupid stuff. You put yourself in a very consequential position without having the background research and apprenticeship to recognize it's dangerous.
Absolutely. I agree. Well, we got a comment on here, Jeremiah, that we need to post.
Oh, yeah. Is it by Jeff?
It's by Jeff, and it says, "It's that time."
Oh, well, hopefully this will make us a little happier. We were talking
sorry about that.
Evening, but I think Jeff is hitting at some pooping. Do you have any quick stories of a rescue that would make us happy before we wrap up with some poop talk here?
I do. There were 2 guys that went out in the winter in a big storm. They were reported missing, and they was very mysterious. The spouse would not really tell us what was going on, but they went to one of the ski area in Yosemite, and they headed out on the edge of a big storm. And eventually the investigator got it out of them that they were looking for buried treasure in the backcountry, which is like Fern Fen, I think, buried stuff in New Mexico, Colorado, had a book. There's a budget version of this. And these guys had decided, they'd looked at Google Earth. They found 2 trees that were a big X, because trees never fall across each other in the backcountry.
Ever. Ever.
And they headed out in the middle of winter with like 5 feet of snowpack, so they weren't going to be able to find the trees. And they headed off, and one of them instantly fell in a creek and got wet. They somehow made it through the night. They stumbled around, and somehow one of them had just given up. I think the dad had given up, been like, "Son, go ahead, leave me here to die." He stumbled out onto a packed track, which is a snowshoe pack. He found the rescue team. And the thing I love about it is that everything that they did, they were terribly ill prepared. They had no idea what they were doing. All they had was absolute optimism they would have a payday, but not finding these trees. And their sheer stupid toughness got them through it, and they self-rescued. And I love that. I think that there are a ton of stories like that out there where it's laughable because they somehow made it, and they absolutely should not. They should have absolutely died out there, but the gold fever kept them going. So that was good.
Gold fever.
Yeah.
I like that. All right, John, you want to hit him with a poop question here?
Yeah, so we had talked to you about this before. Do you have a good story? It
I
could be
do.
about you
So-
or somebody else. It doesn't matter.
This is the greatest poop ever. I would go back to the Kalahari. We were up in an area called Cedillo Hills, which is in the northwest of the Okavango Delta. It has panels of art that you're nearly 1,000 kilometers from the ocean, and there are pictures of whales. So people had walked from there, from the central Kalahari all the way to Namibia, seen a whale, come back and painted it on a rock. Amazing.
Oh wow.
And so we're up in this amazing area, and when you're pooping in that area, there's a lot of lion around and elephants. You're kind of careful so you don't go too far. And I wandered off to have my poop, and I pooped, and I turned around, and I heard this nee, and I watched this little beetle come in, and it was like a little helicopter. He came in, and he instantly checked out my poop, and I was like, pretty good service right now, all right? And he looked and checked it out, and I'm sort of looking at him and thinking, what's going to happen? And then he sort of moved about 30 centimeters, a foot away, and he cracked his wing case. Very distinct click, put his wings out. It's like a little helicopter taking off. The dust started kicking, and he took off and he left. And I was like, oh, that was interesting. And about a minute later, I heard a nyeh, come back, and there were two of them came back, right? Because they'd heard there was a fresh buffet, and they came in and they landed, and they proceeded to roll my poop into the little dung balls and take it away. And it was great because I sat out there for 15, 20 minutes watching this. And when I went back to the campsite, my friend was like, where the hell have you been? I was going to get worried. And I was like, you're not going to believe what I just saw. Come and check this out. And they were like, why would I want to come and look at your poop? It wasn't that impressive size-wise, but it was like the fact that you were having the natural world deal with it. And I was like, should I bury it? Should I bake it? And I was like, you know what? I'm going to give it to the dung beetles. They're geared up to do this. They've got a pint-sized version of an elephant poo to deal with. This is much more digestible. Yeah, it was a wonderful natural world experience.
It's
Long
all
live the
secure in
dung
Sector
beetle.
7.
Oh, it was awesome. When it kicked off, it was like the click of its wing case is very distinct. And he started up and he was like, bum, 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 and then he sort of just took off and went like a helicopter away. It was gorgeous. I just stood there. I was just like, this is amazing.
That was easily the most unique poop story we have ever gotten from anybody, and I'm not even kidding. Jeremiah, is that safe to say?
Well, I will add, also the first time I've heard about baking poop. I don't want that to slip through the cracks. I'm pretty sure I heard bake. Do I bury the poop, bake the poop, or dung beetle the poop?
Really hot environments, it can dry out so fast and dust up that if you're not a hugely traveled area, it's maybe the best thing to do because it stays on the surface. Dung beetles get to go at it. If you stick it down below, what's going to happen with it? Very few animals bury their poop.
Mm-hmm.
I once hit an elephant. Elephants leave like these enormous mounds on the roads, and in South Africa, you can drive pretty fast through some of the game reserves. And I was doing 120 kilometers, like 70 miles an hour, and I hit a pile of elephant dung on the road, and I thought I had ripped the exhaust off the bottom of my car. It was it was profound because it baked on the outside, and then as soon as we blew it open, the flies were on it so fast and on the bottom of the car. Yeah.
Wow.
Wow. Well, he is an untapped well of poop stories, it sounds like.
I am.
Well, we didn't get to talk about everything. I don't think I got to mention that you also have a memoir about working in search and rescue. You have this book. Oh, is that the memoir?
Yep. Searching, finding purpose, laughter, and distraction through search and rescue.
Okay, fantastic. And that one's available on Amazon as well, I would assume.
Yep. Yep.
And if you guys want to, you can definitely go check out his website, where you can find all kinds of great information about what he does. You can also find out about his books. The website's a fantastic resource if you want to just find out more about Moose and what he does. And if you'd like to have him come in and speak for something, as you could see from today, he's a fantastic person to chat with.
What was that website?
MooseMutlow.com.
Yeah.
Moose Mutlow. How do you spell Mutlow?
Mutlow.
Mutlow. I do like it on the word on spelling. It will suggest words, and it comes up. Mutlow comes up as outlaw, and I really like that.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's
Moose
mean.
outlaw. Sounds like you're somebody who goes out and shoots moose all the time.
Yeah,
like you're a
I'm
moose
not.
poacher.
I love them. Yeah, they're very nice. They're just cows on stilts.
True that. Well, yeah, there's a lot of other stuff that I would love to ask you about. If you want to grace us with your presence again, I'm sure I don't want to speak for John, but I would, yeah, we'd love to have you back on and talk to you more. Like John says, it's a fast hour, but John, if you want to take it away here, he usually tells the guests, hang out for a sec.
Yeah, just hang out for a second. We'll get back with you in just a few minutes, and we'll hang out with you in the green room. But thank you for being on today, and we really appreciate you, man. Really appreciate you.
Thank you very much, and keep going, spreading the message of the outdoors. It's a good thing. Well done.
Absolutely. Thank you. You're right, man. Not enough time. Just not enough time.
Not with Moose. Man. Wow. Well,
I didn't know we were going to start talking about crocodiles and hippos. And I mean, so what people don't realize is Jeremiah sends me this picture. It's a picture of a notebook pad, and it's basically show notes. Like, hey, let's hit these spots during the show today. And I don't think we hit but 3 of them.
It's untapped, bro.
It's totally untapped. We did get some good comments though, that I want to make sure I get on here real quick before we do it. Devin had a couple really good ones. He said the book Death in Yosemite is fascinating information from the point of view of data, humbling how many people lose their life from simple mistakes or just freak situations. And then he also posted on here, another good book to read is Lessons Learned 2, good risk management information. So definitely check those out. We also had J Flo was on here, and he corrected you. He said, Jeremiah, it's called Cliff Notes version. Reader's Digest version makes you sound as old as John and myself.
Well, I'm seasoned, 32 years seasoned.
Yes, you are. And then Chance Brave got on here and said, yes, I finally made it to alive. So welcome on board. Welcome to the family there, Chance. Good to have you in, man. So, yeah, a lot of great comments going on. Wish we could have gotten to more of them, but when you have a fascinating guest on, sometimes you just can't get to all the questions because you really want to keep the chat going. So, Jeremiah, anything to say before we head out of here?
Well, I will mention briefly, I did get to catch up with Mr. Backpacking with Jason, sir. Unfortunately, Bridget and I did some landscaping outside the house a few days before, and I don't know if I got into poison ivy or it kind of felt like that time that I sat down in some moss, and I remember I had a macro lens, and I was filming. I was like, what are these little bugs, little pink? Oh, I was like, this is so interesting, but they were actually chiggers, and I might have gotten back into those. That's what it feels like. So I'm eat up, bro. I got out there with Jason and then just started scratching. And there's no hydrocortisone cream whenever you're already out there and you're backpacked in, you set everything up. So we're good. You slept well that night, huh? Jason. Well, it's been a couple rough nights. That's okay. If anybody wants to see the trip, he hasn't published a video yet, but be on the lookout. Backpacking with Jason's his YouTube channel. and he did film us out there swimming in the Big South Fork River and hanging out and having a good time. But yeah, man, I guess other than that, I'll see everybody next week.
Yeah, and I gotta say, just to kind of go with your water topic, Cabela's is doing like their big like month-long sale, everything's on sale thing. I might have purchased a kayak.
Oh yeah,
Just saying,
that's what I'm talking about.
I might have purchased a kayak that's kind of a fishing, hunting kind of kayak that's meant to kind of lazily go down the river. Should be kind of nice.
Now we got another opportunity for a trip, a little catalyst for a trip, kayaking. I like it.
That's
Congrats,
what I'm saying,
dude.
man. That's what I'm saying. I've been wanting to get one for a while, and I couldn't beat the deal on the one I got. So with that said, we're not going to bore you with my purchases at Cabela's. We will catch you all on the next one. We'll see you guys.